Hi, this is Tal speaking. Right now it's 11 on Christmas. My family and I, last night we kind of just returned from like a 15-hour drive on Christmas Eve last night, so I'm kind of late into editing this video. I wrote the whole script last night. I like fell asleep during it, but nonetheless, I hope all my friends and followers see this and, you know, my understanding of this, technically Christmas themed video.
You see, George, you really had a wonderful life. Don't you see what a mistake it would be to throw it away?
Clarence,
Yes, George?
where's Mary?
Oh, well, I...
The first thing that I noticed when I first watched this film is that a lot of people mistake it for just a Christmas movie. It really is more than just a Christmas movie. It's a heart-aching story about sacrifice, disappointment, and, the quiet heroism of your everyday people. At the center of the story is following the life of George Bailey, a man living in the town of Bedford Falls. George dreams big, but lives small, not because he doesn't work hard, but because the life he has really kicked him back with whatever opportunity he gets. All the way back throughout his childhood, George has always helped other people live happily, and even gets married, but a lot of these things that he does comes at a cost of his own self-interest. George's dream was to be an architect and travel places worldwide to pursue his career. But every chance he got to achieve this dream was always sacrificed because of his personal choice to help others achieve theirs. He constantly tries to move forward on what he wants to do, but every situation in his life ends up pulling him back to the same spot. George's uncle also ends up kind of misplacing the money at the bank he works at, which would potentially get him arrested for financial crimes. As a result, George ends up depressed because really, at this point, nothing in his life has ever gone his way or the way that he wanted to be. He begins to question his own life, and he even gets to the point where he stands at a bridge and is about to take the action of committing a on Christmas Eve. Through George's journey, the film asks a really powerful question: what makes life truly valuable? From the very beginning, George wants more. He dreams of traveling the world, going to college, building grand things, and escaping Bedford Falls. But again and again, his plans are interrupted. His father dies, forcing him to run the building alone. His brother goes to college instead of him. Money meant for his future is used to save others. Each sacrifice chips away at George's sense of self agency and worth. So at this moment in time, we can understand why George would want to end his life. His life essentially has shown to be constant failures and disappointments. It is only when George is basically, fake rescued by his guardian angel Clarence, who I forgot to mention was watching him since the beginning of the film. This prevents George from going through with the plan. And the guardian angel Clarence and George have a conversation with each other while drying up in the lighthouse. While talking back and forth, George suggests to the angel, which he still doesn't believe is even really an angel, that everyone would be happier or better off if he never existed in the first place. This is when Clarence gets an idea and decides to show George a timeline where he does not exist. Now, I think that throughout the entire story, the film speaks directly to our own lives. Like George, many hardworking and good people grow up with clear dreams and a desire for freedom, only to be shoved into cubicles or working for the rest of their lives. We've learned that the unfair nature of this world isn't always going to reward kindness or hard work. If life was fair, then good things would only happen to good people, and bad things would only fall upon the wicked, in which this idea is far from the truth. The life of someone like George reflects so many people on Earth: hardworking, passionate, and loving people who serve anybody but themselves and end up suffering due to their own sacrifices. To many, a life like this is nothing short of dull and painful and full of shortcomings. But the film challenges the idea that personal achievement is the sole measure of a meaningful life. Though it can be subjective, and it is subjective, our happiness can also be found in the joy of others. Our self-interest is not the only thing that will mend our flaws, but also our service to our fellow man. In the end, the vision shown by Clarence to George sees that his sacrifices truly did matter. His life wasn't small, it was foundational. Most people who he met in his life would be 10 times worse off if he didn't exist, showing that he never knew the effect his presence had on other people. He never got what he wanted, but the vision made him understand that his life was worth more than anything. So last night on Christmas Eve during the 15-hour drive, my family and I stopped at a fast food restaurant before we got home. When I got out the car to throw my drink away, some guy drove past me in his Toyota, began to slow down, then started insulting me for some reason. I could have responded in any way I wanted to the guy. The response I chose to say was, "God bless you and Merry Christmas." Ironically, I think this event actually reflects what I think is probably one of the biggest lessons of the film. Ultimately, the film teaches that good people wouldn't let disappointment turn into bitterness. Instead, he transforms into service. I think while a big part of this movie is sacrifice and self-worth, I think the more bigger picture that contributes to those two values is perspective. Before his visit with Clarence, we see George angry and depressed, lashing out at his wife and kids, and after the vision with Clarence, he's joyous and relieved. The biggest thing about this comparison is that in that short amount of time with the vision, nothing changed. George was still probably going to get arrested, he was still going to have the same old family, and he was going to remain in the town that he wanted to escape with unachieved dreams. But George's happiness came from his outlook on the situation. His understanding of the sanctity of his own life and others are so important that even the inherently bad things about his life weren't upsetting him anymore. Essentially, nothing changed about his bad situation, but the way he looked at it. Your outlook and your attitudes towards everything will determine your life's happiness. The world is unfair. People aren't always going to get what they want. But the film reminds us that that doesn't matter. The mishaps, the mistakes, when you lose your job or experience a breakup or when you don't get what you want, they are all a test to our attitude. It's basically God asking us if we are able to remain steady despite the circumstances. Now, what do we learn from all this? I've heard people tell me that this film had a bad ending. Basically because George never achieved his dream and lived his life serving people. I think, that is a reasonable way to put things, but in my opinion, that didn't matter, because his happiness came in the friends and people around him, who were all affected by his actions. The last scene of the film, when he returns home, shows everyone coming together and paying him back in that moment. George gets to see everyone pitching in their own money because they themselves know how much George has helped them. I think what the film shows us and how we can really apply this to our own lives is not only how we put the outlook of our situations, but also the way that we treat other people. Everyone who George had ever helped came to help him because he was there when they were in trouble. It is only then that George understood the true intrinsic value of his life. It was about the ability to make others happy. Even though I'm using this story analysis as a Christmas theme because it's December and today is Christmas, it's honestly so much more than that. George certainly wasn't the wealthiest or the luckiest in his town, but he was wealthy in the value of all the relationships that he established throughout his life.
Telegram. Good idea, Ernie. A toast. To my big brother, George, the richest man in town.